Go.
Man. Well, we're back. We're back, man. That first part of the conversation was amazing, man. Thank you for really just educating so many of us, talking about your experiences from such an authentic perspective, man. And I just can't wait to dig in further. Like we left off where you were just taking a plea agreement.
Yeah, and what I wanted to highlight about that experience was that we know right now, currently, and now it's more popularly accepted, the average adult can't be successful on probation. The average adult can't be successful on probation. In fact, it is now being considered the #1 producer of mass incarceration because most people that are incarcerated are there after subsequent violations, right?
Wow.
So
Talk about it, man. You get a technical violation, you do like
right. But I want to unpack that because I don't care about how much probation I'm getting or whatnot. But if I'm an attorney, if I'm a judge, if I'm the adult in the courtroom, I know very well that this man ain't gonna be successful on 5 years probation. Most people violate
this kid.
That's
this
my
kid.
There you go.
This
there you go.
Kid
there you go.
They're basically saying, "Hey, we'll see you soon."
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Deep down, they know, like, yeah, we'll see.
And that's my question. Like, forget all the legality stuff. What do we have as what responsibilities do we have ethically as adults in there?
So before we even get to that, though, I want you to get to what happened, right? Because I think we need to know, right, that you took this plea deal.
You want
right?
to know how I got 30 years?
No. So it was 30.
We want to get to how I got 30 years.
Well, all right. So you took the plea deal, and then what happened, though?
So we're going to get there. So I get out. And one of the things that I get out with all the good intentions of doing right. Right. I had promised myself I'll never use another gun. But I get back out to the same neighborhood that was my pathway in. And as much as I'm trying to be not about that life no more, I got people I've been beefing with that are still about that life. Right. And as much as I'm trying to do right, everything around me seems to be wrong on what the law and law enforcement expects of me. And I'm a teenager that inevitably probably is going to violate the probation. The question is how, right? And so now I get out, and a lot of people I'm beefing with, they haven't changed their life. Understandably, if I was in their shoes, I'd probably be at me too. You know what I'm saying? I probably done shot one of their friends. One of my homeboys shot one of their friends. And so what ends up happening, I start getting jumped. I start becoming a target. You know, people doing clout chasing. I did it when I was a kid, right? I saw older dudes get out of jail. Do little clout chasing. You know, you pop off and look for beef just to be seen. You either want girls or want beef. You know what I'm saying? That's how we living. And so what ends up happening, I get my head bashed in. I get like 27 staples in my head, you know, rushed to Jackson. That's our hospital down in Miami. Say somebody tried, I don't know who was it, somebody tried, I know who exactly was, and they weren't trying to rob me, they were trying to kill me, right? And so, go get the staples, get out. I'm like, yo, I'm tired of this, dog. I'm just not going to keep being a mark out here. And I know what I could do, quote unquote, based on how I know how to navigate this space. And I'm out here being a victim in this space. And I went right back to what I knew. And I picked up that pistol and I started going back and I started wetting some of the dudes that I was having beef with. And I wet one of them up. And then I'm like, yo, you know how we get money and we feel like, listen, if you sell dope, you fair game. You breaking the law, I'm breaking the law, so we make money robbing dope boys. And so I started robbing dudes that are selling dope, you know. And so anyways, but I think what's very important is how I get that clout when I get out. I got tried, I went to the 10th floor, right? And so the 10th floor in some ways made me the worst of the worst that I wasn't even before I got there. Let's talk about that.
So you're talking about the worst of the worst label. At one moment, don't fit.
And so now I violate with these cases.
With these cases.
Yeah, so one of the dudes that he pointed me out, whatever. I get caught for these attempted murder charges and an armed robbery.
And so when you went back to the
court, the
they
first
were like,
thing,
wait a minute, you violated your thing.
Yes. And so
we didn't even want to talk to you about the plea agreement.
This is what they doing.
They had a plea agreement again.
This is what they doing. Violation of probation hearing, you got no jury.
Yes.
You have no reasonable doubt standards.
Yeah.
Hearsay is allowed.
Yeah.
The things that we couldn't get you on and maybe initially, we could have a hearing now and get the max. And so they take me to a violation of probation hearing. I win on some of the charges, but still lose on one of them and get violated. And I get
all
30.
All it takes is one.
I get exactly.
All it takes is one.
And here's what they do. Remember, the police says, If you violate, you get the top of the guidelines. Whether technical, whether new charge, whether whatever it is, the top of the guidelines scores me out to 360 months.
Okay.
That's 30 years.
So that's what they gave you.
So they give me 30
Top
years.
of the line. Now let's back up.
But I have open open charges.
Now let's back up for a second, because that's another, like, you're this conversation is raising a whole lot of issues around criminal justice reform that we need to talk through. We're not going to talk through it now, right? But this is something, especially in future episodes, we bring.
You're planting seeds, man. You're planting seeds right now.
One of the things that you talked about was the violation of probation here, right? So it's great, man. One of our partners is Reform Alliance, right, who's really focusing keenly on probation reform.
Yeah.
And so we're working with them here in Florida about how we change these probation laws. But you brought up something because I remember when I was locked up too as well, that you have somebody come on violation of probation. One thing we know the state attorneys used to practice is stacking charges, right? And so they would pile on 20 charges, right? Yeah. And you got to go to a probation hearing, and what they really violated you for was BS or whatever, right? And you could probably beat that, but then we talking to the person, be like, but listen, if they get you on any one of these things, right, you out of there.
You only need to lose once.
Yeah, you only need to lose. So you could have 20 serious charges and one BS charge, and the BS charge you get roped off on, the next thing you know, they're maxing you out of there. And so that's another form of, like, man, they talking about they were gangsters they trying to lock up. The system was gangster, right? The system was really gangster. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought that it was that first charge or whatever that was serious enough. But now that you bringing in the probation element, right, that just really highlights another facet of this system.
Absolutely.
that needs to be addressed.
And you got to shine a light on that probation system, man.
And if a reasonable person, if I'm in a prosecutor's position, or I'm just in a negotiating position, right now I'm with Neil. I'm like, man, if Neil really, I'm about to sell him a house. If Neil really looks at the house, he's going to realize that this house is worth a lot less, right? So I'm going to do something where I'll be like, yo, Neil, I'm going to drop the price right now. You could do this, and get the house. But if for some reason Neil messes up something, he has to pay the full price, right? I naturally notice I don't want him to check out the house, so I'm going to incentivize him to take that easy bait.
Yeah, limited time offer, right?
But I know that Neil's car is going to break down next week, and he ain't going to make it to the signing thing, and so the trigger of maximum payment going to kick in.
Yeah, I'm going to get him anyhow.
Why would I now say, let me risk him coming to that house and see if he'll buy that full price? No, let me throw that bait. Yeah. So this is I use that as a hypothetical, like an example, an allegory for what happens. If I know I can't get you on this underlying charge, I got a big caseload. Yeah. Let me give you a sweet probation that I know you're likely to violate. Yep. And then I don't got to prove this case. All I got to prove is that you violated.
Yep.
Right. And then you're going on the top of it.
And I'm going to get you on the case that I couldn't prove to begin with.
Yes.
Bam, bam.
And get the max even without having to prove it to a jury.
Who's a real gangster?
Oh, man, we already know.
But so that, and so let me tell you, so that is definitely another reason why, we're overjoyed. Like I said, we heard the announcement recently about you being...
What announcement?
But you don't know about the announcement?
What y'all heard?
Man, we heard the announcement that you are going to be a fellow for the Department of Justice.
Oh, has that ever happened before?
Huh? I think it's happened one time before.
One time. Oh, just one time before?
They never had fellows before?
Yeah, they had one.
A fellow?
One. And we actually had him as a guest on our show, Darrell Atkinson of Forward Justice, right?
Well, I think I got to clarify for y'all. They've had fellows. They've only had one formerly incarcerated specifically.
Well, what we were talking about.
Specifically a formerly incarcerated
He's tough, man. He's tough.
We need to just pencil in Angel on the top of our Voice podcast. Just pencil his name in, y'all.
That'd probably be like fashion forward. That's what they be doing. They penciling in clothes right now. You ain't see
But it could be man. Angel, Neil,
so
and Desmond.
That is significant. That someone with that's been incarcerated before,
right?
Have an opportunity to work at the highest levels of government in an area that they not only have personal experience, but in the area that has been void. Right. Of impacted voices. And so you're like a trailblazer, right? Yeah. You know, Daryl was the first, you're now the second. And that is so important because the things that you've shared with us on our podcast and the insight of your personal experience, I think is going to be valuable. And I think that not only the government, but this country is going to benefit greatly from you serving in that capacity.
Yeah, and let's take it even further. People are going to benefit.
Yeah.
And they're going to be people who, because I know that's your true north, man. Like you're thinking about people who are walking through these systems, people who are brushing up against these systems, right? And you're going to be able to be having a platform, you know, in which you're going to be able to use your experience, that pain, and put it into a purpose, man, not just for you, but for other people, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. And so we're going to get into, you know, what exactly, you know, for what you can share with us, right? We don't know. Yeah. You know, now you big government guy, you know, we can't get everything we want.
Ain't trying to get canceled on my first week in
He's going to use his government name and everything, man.
Like, I'm already dealing with the conviction. Like, we got already a lot of hurdles to cross.
Yeah. So, no, we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, right, really want to walk you through some of the things that you've done with us, right? And so, you know, we got some big shoes to fill now, you know, because you was our person that was leading our attorney assistant program. Could you just talk a little bit about your experience in that?
Yeah, it's been a great experience. I just graduated law school last year, and I've had an opportunity to go out to the same schools, law firms, and capture something that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Which is there's a real desire to want to help. A lot of folks just don't know how. And so it's our job, and it's good that they're willing to centralize our perspective, our voice, to allow them to help. And so, you know, we've been bringing in folks from big law firms, the things that students at the top of their class are trying to get into, coming over and trying to help us. And what we want to do is that we want to use them to address people's fines and fees barriers that are starting to be a hurdle or an obstacle to their promise of Amendment 4, which is full restoration of their voting rights.
Well, now you got to speak in past tense because now you've left us now. You know,
man, listen.
That's what you used to do, right?
That's what you used to do. Listen. But what Desmond ain't telling y'all, which is important. Before I ever was receiving a check from FRRC, I was a volunteer. And I've always said before I ever came here, I was a volunteer. And after I leave here, I'm always going to be a volunteer because this is a family. This is we stand for a principle that if you give people that are closest to the problem an opportunity to solve that problem, they're going to bring about the solutions that oftentimes they don't have the resources and opportunities to implement, right? And so this is what FRRC and our sister organizations around the nation that are led by directly impacted people stand for. And so, listen, by the way, I saw y'all, I've been looking at y'all on the YouTube channel. I subscribe, you know, I subscribe, I do all that.
Subscribe to YouTube channel.
Y'all go ahead and do it too. But I see y'all wearing y'all swag and I'm like, oh, you got to let my people vote. Our voice have a vote. Y'all ain't got that one here. But I'm like, okay, well, y'all ain't going to. Listen, I'm going to wear a throwback.
I'm going to
wear a throwback.
I see.
I'm going to wear a throwback.
I see.
I'm going to wear a throwback.
Hey.
Hold on. Let me say one thing because I see that shirt.
Yeah.
I remember being at that leadership retreat.
I was waiting for Neil to say this. Go ahead, Neil. Let's talk about it.
We're hanging out. We're talking. I'm like, man, who is this Angel guy, right? Because we're at this place. I'm helping to manage this recovery program.
What year is this?
2017. Right? And you're studying. Yeah. Right? We have a big night. We're going to go out bowling. We're like a bunch of returning citizens, directly impacted folks. Man, we're going to take over that bowling alley. And you're looking at me like, nah, man, I'm not coming. I got to study. And it's like a Saturday night. I'm like, who is this guy, man? And then let me fast forward because you were talking about that attorney assistance program and no time is tight. Man, I had one special
move the clock. Time is a cultural concept, man.
Special moment, man. You're talking about these big law firms. I'm on a Zoom call with you maybe a couple months months ago.
Let's go.
Man, there's like 40 big time lawyers on there, including a couple like practice leaders. And there you are with Sharon, right? So we got you, returning citizen.
Fines and fees manager Sharon. Shouts to Sharon.
Yep. Big shout out to Sharon, directly impacted. And here are two FRRC leaders, man, literally changing the narrative. I'm just watching as you're guiding all these attorneys through this process that you know better than anybody else, in part because of your life experiences and in part because of your damn hard work, man, going through law school and all that stuff. And I'm watching, like, this is one of my favorite FRRC moments because I'm seeing these big time lawyers. I used to work at a law firm. I'm like, man, they are just taking it in, and narrative change is happening right there.
Hey,
right
let's talk about and this is at a point when I can't even sit for the Florida bar yet. I pass a DC bar, but you want to tell you something? Listen, there's a big firm. Listen, there's a big firm. There's a big firm called Simpson Thatcher in New York. People in the legal field.
We can drop names like that.
Listen,
when you're the fellow at DOJ, you can't.
You DOJ, you can do whatever you want.
You know what's something that was really validating when I hear these attorneys that were themselves at the top of their class turn around and say, "Angel, I'm just so blown away of your ability to like have this high level discussion and break this. You're teaching us." And I'm like, and I want you to see every returning citizen with that same potential.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so I appreciate you mentioning that.
That's what I'm saying.
And we talked about Darryl.
Elevating our voices.
And I jokingly say, who was the last fellow? But Darryl, right as soon as I found out about this fellowship, I hit him up and said, man, just wanted to let you know I got this. And it's not lost on me that you had the chance to be the first in there. But I'm a strong believer and strongly believe that you're part of the reason the door got a little bit bigger. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We have a responsibility not only to like break some glass ceilings, but then to make space.
So you're going
listen, now they got two. Last time they only had one. And I say that because that's part of the reason why we feel sometimes that we got to stay studying. Because if I drop the ball, I ain't dropping it just for myself.
That's right.
Well,
I'm closing doors behind me.
Let me tell you something that I think is not far-fetched anymore, right? Because just a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, we had elections here in South Florida where we had two returning citizens running for office. One was running for a state representative seat. The other one was running for Congress, right? Right, returning citizens.
Let's go. So one R, one D.
Yeah, one was a Republican, one was a Democrat, right? And you're talking about opening doors, and so Darryl opened the door a little bit for you. Now you get up there. The thing I see is that we may have an attorney general, right? That is a returning citizen, right? Hey, who knows, right? And that is definitely a possibility. But speaking of throwback, right? I know some of our viewers are scratching their heads right now, right? Listen, we were very intentional because I know they're saying in their head, wait a minute. Last episode, we was talking about Angel going to prison for 30 years, and now we on this episode, he talking about graduating law school. What happened? You know what I'm saying? And so, no, we did not miss out speaking on that journey of what happened between the years of when Angel was incarcerated and when he graduated cum laude, right, at the University of Miami School of Law. No, I was very intentional with that because I want to keep y'all, our viewers, on your toes, right? Make sure that you paying attention, right? Yeah. And so we're gonna put that in there. But it was so important that we really wanted to just make sure that we didn't miss the opportunity to highlight the work that you were able to do while you was with us, right? And talk about that big hole that you leaving.
Well, let me tell you. Hold on.
You go. I got you.
So I think the elephant in the room that we haven't spoken about because we keep celebrating Angel, and I really appreciate it, right? But let's talk about it, Neil. Des got selected.
He says elephant. So I'm already weight conscious and he called me elephant in the room. Why can't be the giraffe in the room?
Listen. You know what I'm saying? Listen. Well, right now you're the genius in the room.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like it. Come on. That's good. Good mind.
Right now you're the genius.
Elephants never forget, man.
So I know the audience that's listening or watching right now. They're like, what's going on? So Des got selected as a MacArthur Genius Fellow. Second most prestigious recognition in an individual's field to the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Yeah. And to me, what was special about that was the fact that it wasn't just you, Des, that was a formerly incarcerated person in a class of only 25 from around the world. There were 2 formerly incarcerated people there.
Bam.
Right? So we got Dwayne Betts and we got Desmond Meade, right? But it's not lost on me either that I know that one thing isn't changing everybody's life immediately, right? It's an aspect of symbol. So it could easily fall into symbolism, right? But what I believe is that, I know it's not changing everybody's life, but what we're doing is if we think we've won simply because we got these opportunities, that's when we failed, right? Our job is to say symbolism plus the work and now transformational change in our communities, continue pushing the envelope forward, culture change, right? Opportunities, resources. And so I say that because what I know has happened is that the Overton window, what's possible now has been shifting to include us in there, right? But we know that it doesn't end there. That's the difference between having directly impacted people and people that are just trying to get low-hanging fruit, right? Our ships are burned. We ain't no going back. Where we gonna go back to? Ain't no new issue to jump to, right? Ain't no career jumping like this is us. This is us. You know what I'm saying? To the grave. Yep. You know, you often sometimes say it, and it comes from Dr. King. You know, you got to find a cause that you're willing to die for to live for. You know what I'm saying? So I want to say that because this is the importance of that symbolism. That sometimes because symbolism is insufficient, people think it's not necessary, right? And I want to talk about that. Get out of prison, 2011. I'm like 10 years papers. I have finally won some of my appeals, got my sentence reduced, reconvicted to 15 years. I served 12 years on them.
Okay.
I'm like, bro, if I go back to Miami, I'm going to be walking right back into a revolving door, right back into prison, much like I did when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
And I said, I saw The Pursuit of Happiness. I saw Will Smith in that movie do a true story of going from homeless to success. And it started making me audacious to believe that was possible. And I began writing shuttles from Broward to Orlando. Orlando was the northernmost I would go. I couldn't go any colder than that. And I was just very fortunate that the Salvation Army of Orlando work program received me. And I start community college from the shelter. Valencia by the way, audience, Valencia Community College, that's my Harvard. I've gone to speak at Harvard. I published for the Harvard. Valencia Community College is my Harvard.
Okay.
Prior to that, GED is what I got in prison. You know what I'm saying? So every time I'm like in law review, order of the COIF, like top 10 of my class, I introduce with GED and community college. Let's start there. The fact that I can't apply to the Florida bar, unless I have my civil rights restored. And at that time, we had a 7-year waiting period to apply with a 9-year backlog. So nearly 2 decades after you finish your probation, and I got 10 years probation to add. I started second guessing whether I really should pursue this dream that started as a 19-year-old in prison of going to law school. And I'm sitting there wavering on it because I couldn't even get a job as a paralegal out here. And I'm like, I'm probably making it doesn't make sense. And it's because I don't have my civil rights restored. And if the world is anything like what the officers reveal to us and how they view us, because my view of the world, the society comes through the officers, right? And if that's the way, ain't nobody gonna ever support changing that. And so I was really wavering. I'm in my first semester of community college. You got English composition and there's a research paper going on. And I'm like, I don't know what topic I'm gonna get. And I have an older distant cousin that's living here. He knows how important the civil rights thing is to me at that time. And he sees an article in the Orlando. He sees an article in the Orlando Sentinel about it's the right time to restore citizenship rights to citizens. Right now, we're a state where there's citizens that are paying taxes but treated like second-class citizens. So he cuts that out. And he gives it to me, and I start reading. I'm like, whoa, there's hope. There's people might be fighting for this. Right? And actually, that was I said that was 2011, 2012. What were we? 2022. That's about 10 years ago. I still carry that article with me.
Man, look at the young Desmond Meade in that photograph, man.
Y'all ain't getting me to cry on this show. Never. Oh, wow.
Want to bet?
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Look at that.
This is deep.
So
Woo.
I read that. I'm like, this man speaking my language. Yeah, we need to change this. Oh my God, there's hope. That's one of the things we give people when we enter into these positions.
Yep. I had my Hope Dealer shirt on earlier today. I should have kept it on, right?
I'm feeling that Hope Dealer. Yeah, let's
Dealer,
go.
Yeah.
But I still don't know much about the dude. I'm just reading that the dude's fighting for the rights, for the issue.
Yeah.
At a moment when you're questioning your dream.
Right. And then I read at the bottom, the author of this thing, the person that the Sentinel allowed to even get on this thing and just put this thing in that says, Desmond Meade, a former offender. This man been locked up. Is a president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, and he is studying law at the Florida It's like if God said if you needed a reason to believe, here you go. Yep. And I'm like, you know what? There's two crazy people then in this state that then it could be done.
And that's you and Desmond.
And so I said, yo, I'm going to law school. I'm still going to stick to this dream. And I've had those moments.
Wow.
And I would not get to meet you for another 2 to 3 years without intending to meet you. This is in community college. I would graduate at the top of my class from community college and get one of the most prestigious scholarships in the nation from the Cook Foundation and make the front page of the Orlando Sentinel. And then you got to see me inspire you.
Yep.
That's how it works, man. That's how it works.
Yep.
Feed each other.
We had to hunt each other down. We made it happen though, bro. That's for real. Wow.
And this is why the DOJ opportunity is important to me. More, not only for the important work that we're doing there.
But somebody gonna see that.
It's not sufficient, but it's absolutely necessary.
Man, listen, y'all need to put this, I'm telling you, y'all need to share. Those of you all who are watching this need to share this with your family, your friends, man, your homies, your network. Make sure this thing go far and wide, man, because there are people out there that need to hear this. That need to hear this. So don't keep it to yourself, man. Don't be greedy. Make sure you subscribe to all of our platforms, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Fireside. You make sure you subscribe to all of it, like it, and share. Share, because we need to spread it. Man, bro.
Hey, man. Yeah, man. So that was powerful. You're talking about this. Taking the symbol is not sufficient,
but it's necessary.
But it's necessary.
We cannot be. You said it earlier, and let's shout some Marcus Bull. Like I've been listening to the other episodes. By the way, last year's lineup. Come on,
man.
Tara Simmons. We were talking about someone becoming come on, Tara Simmons, Marcus Bullock. Come on, we got banging it. We got. Come on.
Yeah, we were banging it, bro. We were banging.
We got people from Volz.
Yep. Norris. Oh shoot!
After doing 2 decades in Angola, the man
Yep.
mobilizing people inside to mobilize their family outside, getting elected officials to be held accountable and be really smart and true on justice, not just cheap on justice, right? It's that's why I think it's important.
But talk about something, because then it's interwoven with hard work. Right? Because when I think about you, man, right? I think about the walk, right? I think about the work. Right. I think about, man, you setting me up. Right. I was in a hotel room at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, with the lights on, and you are on the other line telling me about civil rights restoration. Because, obviously I'm the good looking one in the group. So I have to go present this, but I don't know what I'm talking about. No one will be surprised by that. But you made me look smart, man. And I just remember being like, man, who else would be crazy enough to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make sure that meeting goes well?
And I was in law school at the time.
You and
I was
me
in law school
and
at the time.
right? Like it's like that's also the work. Man. It's rolling up the sleeves and it's getting at it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Angel, because one of the things, we talk a little bit about the fines and fees attorney assistant program, but the other thing too that I thought that you did was significant was when we passed Amendment 4, and then we had the Florida legislature come behind us and create some the statute that required the payment of fines and fees, and of course organizations like the ACLU and Brennan Center for Justice and League of Women Voters, they filed suit challenging that law, and we at some point inserted ourselves into the fray through an amicus brief and saying, basically, for those who don't know what amicus brief is, basically telling the courts, listen, I know some things going on right now, and we got something to say on this, and we want permission to say it. That you really took the lead for the organization, and working with Forward Justice, which is a law. That's right, a law firm or law group that is led by formerly incarcerated people, right?
Yes,
licensed and barred attorneys. That they we had Darryl
voting rights impact litigation in North Carolina.
They're doing the impact litigation in North Carolina and across the country. But they were they partnered with Demos to be our official legal counsel and stuff. And then you
I was able to run points.
Talk about that for a second, man.
I think it's important to talk about why we were filing a motion, right? Because what a lot of people don't understand is that we have to meet people where they are. Because we're asking them to meet us where we are, right? We asking people to see us as humans. And so as the legislators was trying to create this barrier, financial barrier, we went and started meeting with the very legislators we disagreed with. You know, and we've been getting fighting. Let's see how we can make a bad law less bad. Remember that?
Yep.
Somebody was there to the last day.
And why were we doing that? Because people, man, there were people going to be impacted by that work, man.
I remember I thought I burned all of Neil's bridges when in one of those meetings with the chairs from the House. I'm like, I snapped. He kept saying it like he said it once, said it twice. He's like, but violent offense. I'm like, listen, you done said this 3 times. By the way, I went to prison for attempted murders.
Well,
so
he actually said, he's like, you can't find anyone who voted for Amendment 4 who was thinking that it was for somebody with a attempted murder charge. And I'm thinking like, I'm going to get that Love Vote app out and see the thousands of people who voted for Angel Sanchez,
knowing his story,
in light of my story, right? And so what we ended up getting at least into the law was a mechanism that, despite the barrier, let's create some access into the courts. We know that justice doesn't scale in the court system, but at least somebody could at least get help, and it's going to be impactful for that one individual. And so we did something that was quite remarkable. We got these legislators to write into the law that notwithstanding any other law, a court can hear a case at any time. Now, anyone that knows about law knows that that's very rare. Courts lose jurisdiction after a certain period. So we opened the doors to the courthouse then said, listen, give the courts the authority to do some modifying down of those financial barriers or changing or doing something so that people can realize the promise of Amendment 4, which is to have that voting right restored. But not only because it's right and dignifying for the individual, because when people are voting, they're less likely to be a fan, which makes society better for all of us. Right or wrong? Like it's a low-hanging fruit. Ain't nobody got to spend a dime on this.
They just sounding like a soundbite right about now.
So we got that mechanism in place, right?
Yes.
And now we are now working with the stakeholders in local jurisdictions to put in processes, consolidated dockets, agree standing orders, motions, and they're looking at the law saying, but the thing that gives us the right to do those things might get struck down. So we wanted to insert ourselves to say, listen, if the law is unconstitutional and we don't like it ourselves, please don't strike down the exception to the law that's given an avenue just in case it goes to appeal. We don't have to start working and building these programs out 2-3 years later.
So basically what we were doing was just making sure that we were protecting the interests of the people most impacted by the legislation. And I think that was cool. So the 2 areas that I want to highlight, of course, you also worked in, over the years we worked in policy, but the 2 areas I want to highlight, and it's I'm being intentional with this, is that you were very instrumental in advocating to make sure that people who were directly impacted were not didn't feel the brunt of whatever was going on with the lawsuit. And then the other area was that you was making sure that people who could not afford, or people who were forced to choose between putting food on their table or being able to vote, people who were too poor, right, and who was being impacted by these outstanding legal financial obligations that they had no way whatsoever to ever satisfy them, you was working to make sure that they get access to democracy.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Right?
Thank you for that.
And so I wanted, because here's the thing, right, because I think, and the reason why I mentioned that is because we're now going to be going into, right, what it is that you're doing with DOJ. And I got a sense.
I'm glad you asked that question.
I got a sense that it's going to be along the lines of fighting for people who have been impacted the most by some type of system and alleviating that pain. I just got a sense because the track record is showing that.
The pattern is there.
Right? And knowing that you cut your teeth doing that, rocking with family, FRRC, you know, and you about to take this thing to a much higher level, bro, to the highest levels of government.
Well, and let me throw one more. Let me throw one more out there, because man, there were changes recently in terms of clemency. It's a little complicated in how it's getting implemented, but in terms of helping people get their civil rights restored, man, you were the tip of the spear there, right? Like
Jesus. I forgot that.
That's all right.
Part of the reason you stayed up and you was talking.
That was us talking that night, man. That was the day before the big meeting.
Yeah. So listen, we got to hey, listen. I'm ready to like dive into this, but I know that our production team looking at us like, well, do y'all understand what time it is? You know, we understand, y'all. We understand, but listen, we got to get this last segment in. Listen, y'all make sure, stay tuned for real. We coming back, right? We're going to talk about what the next horizon for Angel and how people are going to be impacted by his presence at the Department of Justice. Let's go? Yeah. All right, cool.
You know that we are the voices.